Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to tune in once again, and we got more NFL draft talk today. In my last video, I touched on both Quinion Mitchell and Terrion Arnold, two guys who I think right now are competitively fighting for the #1 cornerback position in the NFL draft. But today, this is a position that I don't see getting as much love. This is a position that I love, position that I play, position that I talked about, really one of the bedrocks and foundations of this channel and how I gain my knowledge to see what I'm seeing on the football field, the linebacker position. And we got some really good ones today. We're going to talk about 4 guys today, and I want to start off with really my field general. 2 words for a guy like this, and that's Junior Coulson. The national champion, Michigan man, playing linebacker, 6'2", 238 pounds. Couldn't find a verified 40 for him, but based on the film, I think he's a high 4'5", maybe 4'6" guy. 32-inch arms, and we're going to talk about what does that arm length mean. But per ESPN, Colsen had 95 tackles in 2021, 4-star high school recruit, and his role increased yearly in the Michigan defense. He was ranked number 43 on Daniel Jeremiah's top 50, and he's projected as a mid-day 2 pick. The guys that I'm going to talk about today, I think they all have a strong chance of going on day 2, and there's a guy in this class who I think could go day 1 based on the type of player that he is. But we know this draft class is stacked with quarterbacks, stacked with corners, and stacked with offensive linemen. That may not happen. But throughout his Michigan tenure, Coulson earned second team All Big Ten in 2023, was a lot impact trophy finalist in 2023, and received third team All Big Ten honors in 2022. So we're looking at a very, very good player, has a championship pedigree. Who is Junior Coulson? First note that I have on him: displays a good understanding of route concepts when playing the middle of the field in zone coverage. When I talk about a guy like this, and I say he's a field general, not only do I think that he has the speed, he has the athleticism, he has the range to do a lot of different things on the football field, and he did a lot of different things on the football field. I'm thinking of a field general as the guy, I want you to get my defensive line set. If my 3 tech is lined up in a 2, I want you to shift them over. I want you to call the play calls, and that's what you traditionally think of a Mike linebacker, but he may not play Mike linebacker at the next level. I think he could, though. But this is a guy, showcases adequate lateral speed to have range as a run defender. You see that throughout here on these plays. And I talk about having the athleticism, showcasing some of those things in zone coverage. He's really one of the safer players that I see in this class. We're going to talk about some players who you may deem a boom or bust prospect. We're going to talk about some players who have elite athleticism, but maybe they're reading the keys. Maybe they're understanding of what run formations are, understanding how the blocking patterns are setting up. That may not be as far as you want it to be at this point. In terms of his block shedding, there's a couple of things that I look at with a linebacker when I say, are you really that guy? Of course, can you cover? Do you have range? Can you shed blocks? And this is a guy who can shed blocks. Like I said, 32-inch arms. Now, I think when he attacks blocks in the blocking scheme, he likes to use his speed to attack blocks when coming downhill in the run game, and occasionally he will take a backdoor. What is a backdoor? That's when you have a blocker in front of you and you try to slip behind him rather than going to the play side, going across like you should. Sometimes he'll take the backdoor, and sometimes it works, but of course you want to see the proper technique. You want to see the shock and shed. You want to see the hand swipes, those types of things. Now, what did I just say? He can also shock and shed and extend those arms with power to create time to find the ball carrier. This is why I point to the arm length, something I see a big, strong, physical linebacker. And in today's game, that's something you have to covet because these guys are getting smaller, smaller, and smaller. Another thing that I talk about when I say what is a good linebacker, you have to be a surefire tackler, and I think Junior Coulson is a good physical form tackler. He's going to put his chin strap in your chest plate, and you're going to feel it. You're going to know he tackled you, and we see that multiple times again and again and again on film. Now, some of the things that I don't see as much with Junior Coulson, and like I said, these are very good players, but we got to talk about it because if you were just so great and you had no weaknesses or you had no other things that you could refine and work on, it wouldn't even be no point in this. You would be a top 10 pick. But I think if you refine some of these things, you're looking at a very, very high caliber starting linebacker. Now, he didn't have much production as a blitzer in 2023. And of course, we can say with the Michigan defensive line, we think about Jim Harbaugh. What does he really base the foundation of his teams off of? And that's offensive and defensive lines. He had a great defensive line in front of him. So you think, okay, if we don't have to sacrifice as much, be the field general, keep you in the middle of the field. Now you're covering in those hooks. Now you're covering in those zones in the middle of the field. We don't need you as much as a blitzer, but he has 0 sacks in 2023. And even when he was sitting on pressures, didn't have much production there going against backs one-on-one. Now, I think also, while I really like what he does in zone coverage, I think he struggles in man coverage. You'll see him sometimes in opportunities. He has the back one-on-one. Sometimes he'll slip out of the backfield. It'll be a screen pass. Or you just have to cover the back. Sometimes you have a hug call. A hug call, that's when the back is in pass protection. But if he flares out, now you have to take him. And I think it was those situations where if he's in space, he'll see the ball carrier in front of him, but it's just triggering. Going to make that tackle, closing that ground, and I think he struggled in those opportunities, in those situations. And now the last thing that I really want to talk about and how I think Junior Coulson can take his game all the way up here to the next level. He had opportunities to trigger downhill and shoot gaps, but did not always recognize it. Now, we talk about understanding what the run blocking concepts are. What are you getting? Is it power? Is it outside zone? Is it inside zone? Am I getting a down block? Do I have to follow the puller? What am I doing and how am I reading my keys? Who is my read guy? And I think right now, he just has a little bit more to refine in that aspect of his game. And I saw it in the Alabama game. Struggled with misdirection. If they had splits, if they had motion, he really flowed with the motion, flowed with the split when you have the running back coming right back to the backside, and you could have been right there in that gap. So that's just one thing. But overall, I think he can feel it. It's not as natural as some of the other guys we're going to talk about in this class, but he can definitely feel out these run blocking concepts in these formations, but just having to trigger downhill when you see it, recognize it, shoot the gap. Overall, a field general linebacker, like I said, was asked to do a variety of things, and I think when you get a guy like Junior Coulson, he's going to be a leader from day one. Based on everything I saw in this Michigan film, they asked him to do so many things. He was getting guys lined up. It felt to me, I don't know Junior Coulson personally, of course, but based on what you see on the football field, this is a guy who tells you that he is a leader. The coaching staff trusts him, and he's an extension of that coaching staff on the football field. Has the speed and explosiveness. He has a lot of the good physical traits and a lot of the good technical and mental traits that you want in a linebacker. I like Junior Coulson. Now, we got to get into a guy who's really not as technically sound, but the athleticism is off the charts. This is a guy who ran a 4.4 340. This is a guy who has all of the accolades. He's a decorated linebacker, and that's Payton Wilson from North Carolina State. Very, very good linebacker. Now, we're going to talk about all of these things and some things that I also think he can refine as well. But 6'4", 233 pounds, 4.44 340. And you see that on the football field. I don't really, when I look at linebackers, the 40 time doesn't tell all, but when it translates, I'm seeing a guy who's a quarterback spy and he's on the opposite hash flying across the football field. That's that 4.4 340. And I say, okay, boom. Now it clicks to me in my head. 30.5-inch arms. So we talk about the arm length, and we're going to get into that as well. A 1.54 10-yard split. Another guy we're going to talk about had the same exact 10-yard split, but that's very, very good, high-level, elite athleticism that we're getting with Payton Wilson. Finished his Wolfpack career with 402 total tackles, 48 tackles for loss, a forced fumble, 13 passes defended, 7 interceptions, and 15 sacks. Was a unanimous All-American, the ACC Defensive Player of the Year, and a first-team All-ACC selection in 2023. That's an introduction if you ever got one, Payton Wilson. Let me get some of that rookie contract. But now, talking about what we get with Payton Wilson, what type of football player is this high-effort guy? He's one of those guys where you cut on the tape. Who is that right there? I need to know who that is because I need to scout him and I need to get his number and talk to him a little bit more. I need this type of football player. That's what I see with Payton Wilson. Showcases great range and the elite combine numbers are reflected on the tape like I aforementioned. You can see that versus Louisville. You can see it versus Notre Dame. This is a guy in a football game had 19 tackles and 2 interceptions versus Duke University. If you talk about somebody who can flash and pop, that's Payton Wilson. Now, can be effectively used as a blitzer with his combination of a first step and his closing speed. He's not as technically sound as far as dips, rips, swim moves, being savvy when getting to the quarterback, but he's so fast that it doesn't matter. He's going to come off of the ball. He can come from depth. He can mug you in the gap and still shoot past you like you never even saw anything coming. This is the type of linebacker who's going to add production to your pass rushing game, and he can do it from off the ball. He can also do it from on the ball, where North Carolina State played him a little bit. He mixed and matched there. And like I said, a true splash player, but has good recognition of run concepts. Now, when we get into the block shedding, like I talked about for Junior Coulson, I like him in that aspect. Not so much with Payton Wilson. 6'4", like I said, getting back to the measurable, 6'4", 233, 30 and a half inch arms. And I think you see that reflected a little bit in the block shedding aspect of it, because when he's allowed to just run and hit, fly around in the middle of the football field, fly around and just be in pursuit, constant pursuit of the guy with the football, I think that's when he's playing his best football. But when he has to be that true inside off the ball linebacker, and we have a guard, a tackle, one of those fullbacks getting up on him, now getting off of that block is not the easiest thing right now for a guy like Payton Wilson. And I think getting into the next thing, when we talk about coverage, he has all of the athleticism in the world to do anything he wants in coverage. But one thing I'll say when we get to the next level in the NFL, having the eyes and the discipline. What I just talked about with that hug call is where, okay, I have this running back if it's man-to-man coverage. But if he pass protects, now I can't just say I'm going to do something else and I'm going to go somewhere else with my time. I have to say, if he's pass protecting and for some reason he slips out of the backfield, that's mine. And it's those little intricate details in man and zone coverage where I think Payton Wilson, his eyes can get lost sometimes because he's so constant and he pursues to the football so much that sometimes in man coverage and zone coverage, oops, that's my man right there. Oops, that's my man right there. So I think being more focused, honing in on that coverage ability and really unlocking that athleticism in that aspect, I really have no questions that he can't translate it. It's just a matter of focus and his eyes not getting lost in coverage. Now, you probably think physical, can do a lot of things, can understand and read run concepts and formations. That's a bucket linebacker. He runs a 4-4-3. He does all of these things. And I think what is causing teams to caution the most is the injury history. He tore his ACL in high school and then again in college. He'll be 24 at the start of the season. So I think those may be things that teams are considering when you have a guy like Junior Coulson who's going to be 21. You have a guy like Edgerrin Cooper who's a little bit younger. But I think if you just want a football player, the medical's clear, everything clears, Payton Wilson will be a linebacker that's going to help a team from day one. And for me, more so than some of the other guys that we're going to talk about, it's all going to be how do they utilize them. I don't think that you just put Payton Wilson on the football field and we say, okay, this is it. I think you have a plan with him. You have the plan kind of like NC State did. It's not just him running around and flying and making tackles just because. There was a plan with it. Understanding when to put him down on the ball, on the line of scrimmage, understanding when to put him off the ball. Now he's in the middle of the field, understanding how to utilize him in coverage. If you have a plan for Payton Wilson with these physical tools, with this production in this pedigree and profile, I think this is a very, very good football player. But like I said, the medicals have to be all certain, and you have to bank on the health that he's going to stay healthy. I hope he does because he's a good football player. Now, I want to get into the next football player, and we're not going to have any film for this section because like I talked about in my other video, the SEC, they're just not going for that. But we have Edgerrin Cooper, and I talked about the elite rare athleticism that you see with Payton Wilson, and I talked about kind of my field general with Junior Coulson. What am I seeing with my linebackers? I think if they had a child and it was just a rare blend, that would be Edgerrin Cooper. I like what he does. I like how he recognizes the run game. I like how he reads his keys. I like what he brings you in coverage, and he has the elite athleticism and the range to be the quarterback spy, to do the scramble drill, and to break and close on the quarterback. All of these different things that you want out of a linebacker. Edgerrin Cooper is my best linebacker in this class. And I think he's a top 30 player in this class, but because of the board, he may not be first round, early second. He may go mid, he may go late, but I think when the linebackers are finally called off of the draft board, Edgerrin Cooper will be the first one. I feel very confident in that based on everything I watched. 6'2", 230 pounds, 4.51 40 time, 34-inch arms. This is a player. We talk about that arm length. Junior Coulson, he's around that 32 range. Payton Wilson, he's around that 30 range, but 34-inch arms for Edgerrin Cooper, and you see it reflected on the football field. Also, 10-yard split, 1.54, that's still in the 91st percentile. Now, he earned AP All-American and first-team All-SEC honors in 2023, 83 tackles, 8 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Why is this the best linebacker in the class, and what makes him a little different? He's very good at football, and he knows it. If you want to know everything you want to know about Edgerrin Cooper, watch the Alabama game. Like I said, I can't show it here, but watch that cut up if you can get your hands on it. Watch the highlights. Edgerrin Cooper dominated that football game. Jalen Milroe, he met Edgerrin Cooper. The running backs, they met Edgerrin Cooper. He did everything that you want to see. Stopping the run, sacking the quarterback, being there in coverage. That was a breakout game, kind of like what I talked about with Payton Wilson versus Duke. His coming out game was this football game versus Alabama. But that elite range, he possesses a special ability to not only stop and start, but change direction. If we say, okay, we have misdirection right here. Now I got to understand, I'm right here, my running back, the play is flowing this way, but one thing stops and starts if we have reverse. Now I can change direction, still be in pursuit, and go get the running back or the receiver who's now coming across in the reverse on the formation. Those little things that you see, he's everywhere. And I think with Payton and Edgerrin Cooper, also we can throw Coulson in there as well. This type of range allows you to have so many tackles. That's why you see these high level of tackles. That's why you see these sack numbers and these forced fumbles like he has with 2. But next thing, violent tackler and finisher towards ball carriers. When he tackles you, you're going to know that you're going to the ground. You're going to know, okay, I was running the football, or I thought I was running the football, but now this play is dead because Edgerrin Cooper, number 45, met me in the gap. Next thing, instinctive. And for me, he's probably the second or third in this class, I would say, as far as naturally feeling it. One thing I talk about with Fred Warner, and there's a video that I have on this channel called How to Become the Perfect Linebacker. I said you want to flow until you know. You don't want to read it too fast, but you don't want to read it too slow. Flow. Now I see the gap. Now I'm shooting. Flow. Now I see my quarterback. Now I'm blitzing. Those types of things, I think he's instinctive in that manner, and it's more natural for him. Some guys you will see, okay, I'm being coached to do these things, and you kind of see that hesitancy a little bit. Something I talked about with Junior Coulson is not as natural, but for Edgerrin Cooper, Payton Wilson, it's a little more natural getting to the ball carrier and sorting through the trash. Now, will effortlessly cover seam and wheel routes. Zone coverage recognition can improve. I think sometimes if you have a stick route, if you have a tight end right beside you, he'll understand that it's there, but it's just breaking and reacting to the football. Those types of things, getting your eye stuck on the quarterback sometimes. Understand where you're at, understand the area you're in, looking across, where are my concepts coming from, where are my digs coming from, how can I get depth and still look at the quarterback and be able to come down and break on the quarterback, those little things. But I think really it's adequate right now, and I like him in coverage. I'll keep him in coverage and trust him. Also in man coverage. Now, hyper-aggressive pursuit can lead to poor angles in space. And this is what you have with some of these boom linebackers, because they're playmakers to such an extent that you say, okay, I want to make every play. But sometimes one thing I'll talk about with my linebackers, don't get playmaker syndrome. And I think he's a guy that can get playmaker syndrome. When you're so athletic and you can find the ball so quickly, sometimes you break down in really your form tackling. Sometimes you break down in your angles and your leverage. We want to stay on that outside hip, or sometimes we want to stay on that inside hip. It's those things where we will say, okay, maybe I overran this a little bit. Maybe I misjudged the running back in his speed and he got me at this angle. Now I'm lunging rather than trying to run through it and have the form tackle. But overall, I really like his tackling ability. I just want to see refining that. Refining the hyper-aggressive pursuit, not playing with the poor angles like I saw sometimes in space, and I think he'll be really, really good in that aspect. That goes in run defense and coverage. Now, in terms of block shedding, I think we talk about the 34-inch arms, and this is where he kind of projected a little bit. when I watched Edgerrin Cooper, I didn't see much in terms of block shedding, and this can also be kind of a good thing that we'll navigate to, because you'll have the feel that now the offensive lineman, the center can't come off the ball as fast as you can get to the football. The guard can't come off the football as fast as you can get to the football. And I think for me, he's more of a navigator. And that's what you see with some of these guys who have the natural feel. Fred Warner, and I point to him because he's one of the best linebackers I've ever seen. He does it effortlessly. He does everything right. Now, when he flows until he knows, he's navigating through the front seven. He's not running up so fast to the fact that he's putting himself into blocks. He's putting himself into these guards. Instead, he's remaining free and reading and sorting through it. I think he can get off of blocks, but when I talk about a guy like Junior Coulson or this next guy that I'm going to talk about, I just don't think that it's really one of the things that you say, okay, he's going to do it and do it and do it again at a high level. But with the 34-inch arms, you're going to think shock and shed. You're going to think dipping and ripping through these people, just really getting hands off you. You want to see the swipes. You want to see the hand fighting, because you can extend out on these players who may not have as long of arms as you. Or if they do, you still have the arm length to get them off. Now, final summary for Edgerrin Cooper. We said a lot. This is a very good football player. In the NFL, Cooper's immediate fit appears to be within a scheme that prioritizes speed and versatility over kind of a traditional linebacker role. I think he can play that, but I don't want to keep this guy in a box. He's a 3-down linebacker. He can get after the quarterback. He can be the spy. We saw it against Jaden Daniels. We saw it against Jalen Milroe. He's going to attack your quarterback, and he's going to play sound and technical within the front seven. A lot of different things that he can do, but when I talk about a player like this, I feel if it was kind of one of those other draft classes, he may go first round. In this one, I don't think he does, but if a linebacker were to somehow sneak in there, kind of like we thought about Jack Campbell, we knew Jack Campbell was very good. We felt like he was the best linebacker in that class, but we didn't know he would go 18 to the Detroit Lions. If there's that guy in this class, Edgerrin Cooper is that for me. Now, I want to get to this last guy. Very, very intriguing prospect, and I came away astonished. I don't know how high you guys may be on this linebacker prospect, but for me, I think if this guy had the athleticism, a little more athleticism on some of the guys like Payton Wilson, like Edgerrin Cooper, if he was a little taller and a little bit bigger, first round pick. And I say that with confidence. I wouldn't vouch for a player who I don't feel that confident about, but Jeremiah Trotter Jr. out of Clemson, the son of Jeremiah Trotter Sr., exceptional football player. Let's get into him. 6 feet, 228 pounds, 31.5-inch arms. By 2023, in over 12 games and 689 snaps, he tallied up 54 tackles, 24 assists, and 37 stops. Coverage, 2 pass breakups, and 2 interceptions. We're going to talk about an interception he had where he just read that thing the whole way and got him a pick 6 versus Notre Dame. But as a pass rusher, he elevates his game. 27 total pressures, 13 quarterback hurries, 7 quarterback hits, and 7 sacks, showcasing a relentlessness in his pursuit and his ability to disrupt the backfield. Now, talking about kind of that pedigree, because I think it does matter in this aspect. We talked about Joey Porter Jr. It was so important that his father also played in the NFL, but guess who he played for? The Pittsburgh Steelers. Following that lineage, having that linear ability to go after your father and be a relentless player just like he was. Now, his father played in the front seven. Joey Porter Jr. is a cornerback, but we look at Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Jeremiah Trotter Sr. Jeremiah Trotter Sr. carved out a 12-year NFL career, had 2 All-Pro selections with the Philadelphia Eagles. So you look at this, and I think, of course, he's his own man. He's Jeremiah Trotter Jr., but I think that we're seeing a guy who can carry on some things within that legacy just because of how exceptional of a football player that he is. Now, first note, relentless, instinctive player who can read and react to what's happening around him. Now, I talk about reading the keys, understanding power, outside zone, counter, trap, the different types of run schemes that you will see at the college and at the next level. And I felt that this is my opinion. I felt that Jeremiah Trotter Jr. reads the front seven in the run game better than any of these top guys in this class. Now, that may be new to some people. That may be something that I'm seeing differently. But when we talk about a guy that can flow and know and is so natural to him, when I talked about Edgerrin Cooper, I said he's a navigator, navigating through that front seven. If I'm seeing somebody block down, boom, now I know I have to fill and replace. If I'm seeing somebody pull, boom, now I know I have to get out of angle, come downhill at that angle to be in that cutback alley or that play side alley. Those are the things that I see with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. And I'm telling you, if this guy had the height and a little more athleticism like some of these other guys, I don't see why he couldn't be the best linebacker in this class. Now, for me, it's kind of that cluster. I see Edgerrin Cooper as my clear-cut one, and I like Coulson. I like Wilson, minus the injury concerns a little bit. And I think Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is viewed a little bit differently, maybe projected a little bit lower than these guys because of the size and the athleticism. But when I talk about a guy who I feel is safe, and I talk about a safe floor, we don't know what the ceiling could be, but a floor. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is a very, very sound and good football player. Now, my next note, like I said, he doesn't showcase a second gear of speed. And you'll see that sometimes on the outside zones, if the guy has the angle, he's going to have the angle and he's going to outrun him. But that's why now you can kind of tell in his game a little bit with how technically refined he is, how fundamental he is at the linebacker position. I feel like he knows what he is. And that's the biggest thing you want to understand. What am I? How athletic am I? What plays can I make? And what plays can I make off of natural athleticism, but I can beat you to the spot? That's Jeremiah Trotter Jr. summed up in a box. Because when you see him on the football field, and this even goes to him as a pass rusher, one thing I'll talk about, he can give you production as a blitzer, but it's not just outrunning you, bursting into the gap, getting to the quarterback immediately with the snap of a thumb. It's savvy. He has real pass rushing talent. He can bend around you. He can make you miss. He can dip, rip, swim move. He can do those different types of things, and he can counter. So looking at a linebacker who possesses that, it's not going to be, okay, I'm delayed, now I'm just running past the guard. It's going to be, okay, you know I'm blitzing, but can you actually block me? And you just don't see a guy that refined in the pass rushing aspect of his game at the linebacker position, but I think he is that. And going even further with kind of how he separates himself from blocks, how he sheds blocks, not only in the passing game as a pass rusher, but what he does in the front seven as a pure off-ball linebacker, he can use those same rips, those same swims to disengage with blockers in the box. And I think because he can do that, you don't worry as much about, okay, if a guy gets his hands on him, because he's constantly fighting, he's constantly pursuing the football, pursuing ways to get to the football. Now you think with the arm length, with the size, if a guard gets on him, if a tackle gets on him, is he going to be dead within the play? Will the ball carrier have an opportunity to just run through the gap because he can't separate? And I think it's kind of a fine line that you have to walk. More often than not, I think he's going to be able to get his way to the ball carrier, but because of the natural just size and going to the NFL, if these tackles and guards get their hands on him, then you say, okay, maybe we have to find ways to get him away from these guys, get him away from the mess a little bit. But what I saw is, even though he's undersized, I feel confident in how he fights through that same trash. I'm seeing a guy who can actually do a lot of the things that you want to see. It just comes in a different package athletically and physically. Now, getting into the next thing though, finds himself often in the right position to force the ball carrier back to his help in the run, showcases an ability to change body angles to make tackles. You'll see times where he'll have to really change his body angle and sometimes lean a little bit, but he'll still get the ball carried down. Sometimes he'll have to fight through a block while still making a tackle and really get an awkward body angle, but he'll still make that tackle. And we're going to talk about how that can also be kind of one of the things that he can refine a little bit in changing those body angles, but it's kind of a plus that you look at where you say, okay, we know sometimes it's not always going to be clean at the linebacker position, but he's going to fight and claw and scratch to still make a tackle. When you talk about weaknesses, I just think I come back to it. Doesn't have that elite athleticism or range as a defender. You're just not getting that from Jeremiah Trotter Jr., but he still has a pursuit level. He's going to fight to be sideline to sideline. He has high effort, and he's going to make every play that's there. If it's a play that he can get there, he's going to try his best. But I think for Payton Wilson, Edgerrin Cooper, it's just more natural. You see Payton Wilson, if he sees a running back or a quarterback going out, that 4.4 speed just unlocks. and he just gets to the ball carrier so fast. But also adding to that point, I think you're looking at a player who's very, very safe, and we're going to see the block shedding at the next level. But like I said, I think what he's shown me on film, he can do a lot of those things. Now, missed tackles. Missed tackles. And for Jeremiah Trotter Jr., he reads it so well. Sometimes he finds himself in a position where the ball carrier is right there. You did everything. You did the hard part. You found the ball carrier, you got in the front seven, you got in the backfield. But tackling the ball carrier, and this is where I come to leverage. This is where I come to playing with angles a little bit, understanding how to stay on that hip and not give the ball carrier anywhere to go. I think he found himself lunging. Sometimes you want to run through and tackle oftentimes, and sometimes, like I said, it's not always going to be clear. It's going to be cloudy sometimes. Sometimes you got to go from clear to cloudy, cloudy to clear. But when going through the mess, understanding how to continue to run through, not getting to the mess, locating the ball carrier and saying, okay, I'm going to lunge right here and try to go get him. Continue to run through that. Run through those offensive linemen, and I think you'll see more tackle production. And the last thing I want to talk about with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is in coverage. Because you think of a guy who doesn't have some of these elite traits, you probably think, okay, I don't want him in coverage as much, but I think he still showcases an ability to be that 3-down guy because of how smart he is. Now, sometimes in zone coverage, he'll lose track of his man, but when he really understands what it is that he's getting, he fills it out beautifully, understanding how to read the quarterback, where is he going in the zone, how can I get to my landmark, but still understand where's the receiver in this landmark, where's the receiver that's coming into my landmark that naturally started across the football field. I think he feels it out well, but you want to see him continue to develop in that aspect. So I really like Jeremiah Trotter Jr. This was initially about to be a 3-man video with Payton Wilson, Edgerrin Cooper, and Junior Coulson, but when I watched Jeremiah Trotter Jr.'s film, I had to add him in there. And of course, there's more linebackers in this class that we will talk about for another day, but these are my top guys in the class, and I really like them. I think depending on how the draft board falls, it's going to be very interesting. I want to see how the teams value this position still in today's NFL, and I want to see how does the board fall in terms of if Edgerrin Cooper goes early in day 2, will a team say, I need Payton Wilson, I need Junior Coulson, because I think they bring a little bit of different things in their skill sets, but Edgerrin Cooper, he seems more complete to me. But if a team says, I want one of these specific types of body types, I want a specific type of athlete, a specific type of player who can do different roles, then I may look at, okay, I got to shoot up and go get my guy right now. Or if Edgerrin Cooper falls a little bit, now we say, okay, the draft is pretty cool on linebackers right now. We're going to sit and wait this thing out. I want to know what you think down below in the comments about these players. These are my breakdowns of the top linebackers in the 2024 NFL draft. Thank you for watching again. As always, we got some more videos coming. We got more draft videos coming. Let me know what positions you want to see. Offensive line, quarterback, receiver in this saturated class. So many things that we still have to talk about before we prepare for the draft at the end of April. But luckily for us, we got time. Thank you for watching as always. And now